Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Tapped In podcast. We're so glad that you guys could join us this week. As always, I'm your host, Morgan.
And I'm one of your other hosts, Thomas.
And today we're joined by Richard and Daniel Wyatt.
Hello.
Hello.
How you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
We're happy to be here. I'll tell you
Awesome.
that.
Thanks so much for joining us. So, we didn't do an episode last week. That's just because the weather changed a little bit, and Tom got a little sick.
That's right, I've been feeling a little under the weather, but on the mend.
Feeling better now, I hope.
Yes, much.
And this week, Simon's actually out because he's studying for some finals, 'tis the season. But today we have something pretty special planned. Originally, we were going to talk a little bit about the modern and the standard metagame. But if you look at some of these tournament results, it's pretty much just Arclight Phoenix as far as the eye can see. So we wanted to talk about something a little bit different today that's been catching our attention. Something I'm pretty excited about because it's something I've been brewing around, and it's not often that you get an opportunity to brew. Recently, Standard has been a little healthier, so it's been fun to brew around in Standard, but as we all know, Modern's been a little bit linear recently, and Standard is sort of finally shaping up. We've got the green-black decks, the Phoenix decks, the control decks, and there's not a lot of extra space there. So I was pretty excited. I think it was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, Richard. I remember you walked into the shop, and it's funny because I recognized you. You come to Pat's games all the time, but you don't play a lot of F&Ms.
I play weekly moderns from time to time.
Yeah, every once in a blue moon.
I see them on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
But every time I go to a PPTQ in town, on the other hand, I do see you there. And so much to my surprise, I think it was a couple months ago, you walked in with one of the weirdest orders I think I've ever pulled, especially from someone who's a known grinder. Was it, I think you were buying Commander Curses?
There was a particular curse. There's a black curse. It's 3 mana. It's called Curse of Disturbance.
That's right. That's the one.
And I was buying it because my brother and I, who you introduced earlier, along with some other of our friends, we were playing this kind of casual format, Middle Class Magic, which is based around uncommons, and I saw that commander card was printed at uncommon rarity.
I thought it was a joke when I saw the list. But then you came in with more and more lists. And every time you came in, you were more and more excited about it. And I eventually got excited. And I remember the first time I sat down and played, because I kind of thought, oh, okay, this is like, it's like going to be like Pauper, but, a little bit different or whatever. Maybe the meta's not as discovered. But man, I sat down to play this format, and it was totally different than Modern, Legacy, Standard, Pauper, and just pretty much immediately fell in love with it. Everyone at the shop started brewing decks. I think we have 5 new decks that just me, Logan, and Charles have brewed that we brought here today.
Yeah.
How many decks do you guys have brewed for it already?
Between the two of us?
Probably. I mean, I think I just recently hit double digits, and then Richard probably hit that a while ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at my MTG Goldfish account.
Uh-oh.
It's got a
Under the freeform section?
It's got a superfluous number of lists up there.
Give me a ballpark.
Some of them bad, some of them good.
Ballpark? Mostly bad. If you want bad...
No, ballpark number. Are we talking
Total?
30, 40, 50?
We're talking probably 35 or so. Wow. If we're talking bad ones, about 25 of those are really bad.
That's how you get to the good ones, right?
Here's how you get to the playable ones.
The process of elimination.
I don't want to advertise anything as good yet.
So before we get too ahead of ourselves, for the listener, this format, Middle Class Magic, I don't know a lot about it. I know that you guys aren't the ones that invented it, right?
No.
Mm-mm.
So tell me a little bit, how did you discover this format?
That's actually his...
Yeah, that's a me thing. So, I started playing Magic right before Cons of Tarkir got released, and I quickly found a group of friends who I played and tested with, and we got pretty close. One particular year around Christmas, I started watching this YouTube channel called Foursquare Studios, I believe, and they had put up a couple of gameplay videos of them playing these decks for this format called Middle Class Magic.
Shout out to Foursquare Studios.
Yeah, shout out. There's a plug for you. Anyway, they were playing some decks that are in this format where it was any card that was printed uncommon ever, paper or online, doesn't matter.
Or online.
As long as Gatherer says it was printed at an uncommon rarity anywhere, it's legal.
Okay, that's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah, I think so. And then Basic Lands, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, and Snowlands.
Although that would be a wild format.
If you really want, if you really want to pimp out your deck, you can play Snowlands, just because why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scred's not uncommon, is it?
No, it's not.
It's a common, so it doesn't even matter.
Darn. Yeah.
There are some weird snow things.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Sorry. After watching this format, I decided that, this seems like fun, I'm going to brew some stuff in it, because I'm compulsive that way. I can't help but think about deck building like most days.
Sure.
And I brewed up a bunch of decks, and I saw like the total cost of them after like I brewed up, I don't know, like 6 or 7 archetypes or something like that, was like under like $300 when I first built it.
So we're talking pauper levels.
It was like pauper levels decks, and I had a bunch of friends that I really liked, so what I did was I slowly began trading for and acquiring those cards and digging through uncommon bins and stuff like that, and like piecing the pieces together. And when Christmas came around, I invited everybody over after finals, because I was in college when this was happening. And
how many years ago is this?
I don't know, 3 years ago?
This is 3 years you've been working on this format?
It was before I started playing.
It was 3 years ago.
So I started playing a little under 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was 3 years ago this happened. And I gave each of them a deck that I thought that they would enjoy playing. And so my gift to my friends for that holiday season was this format.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
I know. It's super cheesy, and it hits me in the feels the same way that all cheese should.
Well, if you want your friends to play a new format with you, the best way is to give them each a deck and say, there you go, you can't not play anymore.
Hey, you can't trust them to go out and brew their own decks,
You're here, and you have the deck.
At first,
Exactly.
at least.
Right. I mean, like Morgan said, I'm a PPTQ grinder, so I obviously saved the best deck for myself. Because I wanted to beat all of them.
Oh, yeah. You got to show them the way.
That's right. That's right. So after I thoroughly stomped all of my friends, I was like, guys, isn't this fun? Then they started to pick it up and like kind of change the list and stuff like that.
The arms race had begun at that point.
Right. And I slowly began to introduce other people to it over time. I played a lot of it over MTGO because the cards were just like super easily available. There was Vintage Masters there, so there's a bunch of these random staples, quote unquote, that you could pick up for very cheap. And there were things you could use as analogs for other cards if you really wanted to, because we were playing in the freeform format. But yeah.
And I got to say too, because that's about the point where I came into it. Because I remember you were talking about it so much, and eventually I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to brew something, because I realized Shardless Agent and Bloodbraid were both legal. I realized Sylvan Library was legal. I realized Seda Sanctuary was legal. Bad card.
Right.
But a spice card. Big fan of those.
But you loved it. I mean,
looking at you, Song of
if
Fraley's.
you can't play it there, where can you play it?
Exactly.
Right?
And that's the excitement about this format, is it's new, it's not solved, and there's so much to do in it, because there are just so many cards throughout the years that have been up. Because that's the thing about Uncommon, you can be upshifted or downshifted to Uncommon.
Absolutely.
The fact that the format is so open, that's like when Pauper was new. That's one of the main reasons it took off, I think, is people just love to brew in an unsolved format. A puzzle, people love solving a puzzle.
I mean, people have experienced that in other contexts as well. I mean, every time that Standard rotates and you get new sets coming in, there's a huge level of excitement that kind of rises in the general Magic public, because people have this opportunity to be the person who breaks it, right?
Yeah. Get that golden
Definitely.
ticket, you know.
That's what we spent a ton of our time doing in the past rotation.
We did.
When all the garbage Standard from the past year and a half went away.
More than a year and a half. Basically,
Rest in
since I
peace.
started playing Standard.
Yeah, Kaladesh block can die forever, in my opinion.
Except for in middle class Magic.
Except for in middle class.
Where basically the Teamer Energy deck is legal.
except for the best card.
Bristling Hydra?
Attune with Ether.
Attune with Ether, of course. Damn.
Come on, it's
damn.
banned.
We didn't even plan that.
Leave it to me to pick the big green stupid monster.
That's right. Yeah.
That was one of the first things I wanted to when I was thinking about Shardless. Was, oh man, can I play Shardless into Ether, Attune with Ether? That'd be great. No.
Not that good.
But that's one of the great things about this format too, because after I brought over the Bloodbraid deck, and it did some okay. It put a lot of Burning Tree Emissaries on the field. If the games were decided by how many Burning Tree Emissaries you had versus how many Burning Tree Emissaries your opponent had, I don't think anyone's ever
Didn't
beat
stand
me.
a chance.
No.
On top of that, you also put a lot of tap lands into play.
So many tap lands into play.
It was mostly tap.
It's like I basically give my opponent a back to basics at the very beginning of the game. And just like you just have this every other turn.
Don't worry, it'll be fine.
So I hadn't really considered that. Again, y'all's knowledge on this format is greater than my own. What is the mana base like? Is it only basics and then of course the uncommon non-basics?
Yes, so that's exactly how it works. And if you'd like the TLDR version of the mana,
Right.
it's really bad. And
I would imagine so.
Hold on. That's kind of the allure. So I know that sounds bad on its surface when you think about shock lands and fetch lands and things like Modern or True Duels and Legacy for anyone who, likes to spend a pretty penny on their cardboard. But if you look at it, some of those busted things are enabled by kind of like these really far-reaching, very mana-intensive archetypes and deck building, which is not as prevalent. Or if you are there, it comes at the cost of the tempo of mostly tap
Well,
lanes.
what you start to learn too, which I'm sure is something that you guys have picked up on playing a lot more seriously for a lot longer, is just that like the better your mana gets, and the easier it gets, it's just like the less diverse a format's going to become naturally, because there's always going to be the ability to do what you want to do on the turn that you want to do it.
The other thing is, a lot of the mana feels the same. Even if it is functionally producing different colors, things like that, like a lot of the mana bases feel the same in formats where things kind of boil down to that point.
So
always fetches and shocks, for example.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and it characterizes formats like that all sorts of ways too, because it's formats like Modern are a lot faster because of all the fetching and shocking that you do, and it's strange because in some matchups in middle class Magic that I've played, because I just like slightly aggro creature based strategies. It's sort of my lot in life when it comes to Magic, and when I'm playing against a deck that's running Ancient Tomb and City of Brass, I'm just like, okay, well, this is actually a little bit easier, but there are other decks that don't do that. There are other decks that have access to the uncommon Zendikar Gain a Life lands, which I actually kind of like.
Yeah, they're from the original Zendikar. There's only like half of them, right?
I think it's
There's green-white and there's red-green.
I want to say it's the ally.
Yeah, I think it's
colors.
the ally colors.
Okay.
I think ally colors have access to the tap lands that gain you a life.
Weren't those also printed in Cons Block? Sorry to interrupt.
There's different versions that were printed.
Yeah.
So like the cycle we're talking about is the refuges in particular. It's
Yes,
like
refuge.
Zandu refuge and like a
Sajiri, Sajiri.
Sajiri.
Yeah.
Who knows
The
how
ones
to
from
pronounce
Cons
it?
Block were printed at Common, weren't they? That's
They
why
were.
they're so popular.
Yeah, and they're not
Pauper.
Yeah, exactly,
Gotcha.
exactly, and that's why, in a weird way, the Pauper mana base is a lot more reliable in some ways. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I guess today, what I want to bring to the viewer is a bit of the joy and excitement that I had when I learned about how much there was to learn about this format and how much was already sort of there for me to pick around in the different archetypes and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is how surprised I was and impressed too to learn that there was like a pretty thought out ban list for this format.
Yeah, there is actually.
So it's not that every uncommon. I guess you guys have been working on this ban list for what 3 years?
Well, not necessarily. There was after the initial kind of wave of playing, there was probably about like, I don't know, maybe a year where I didn't really do a whole lot of it, and I introduced it to...
Well, so I started playing the Summer That Shadows got released.
Right.
So right before, so about 2.5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, just around there.
And that's when he told me, don't play Magic, and I was like, well, now I'm going to be better than you. And
We're brothers, in case that wasn't clear.
The classic. You guys ever watch the SEGs when the Jessups always have their like their little dig at the other Jessup? Yeah, in the description.
But yeah, and then one time I walked in right after he taught me how to like the basic rules of playing. Like I wasn't competitive by any means.
He just wanted another punching bag, I guess. His friends had all gotten tired of being beaten down by Chill Bill.
No,
that's very new brew.
It's a very
Okay. We'll get to that.
Spoilers.
Yeah, sorry.
So anyways, he was playing with one of his other friends on MTGO. And I was like, what are you playing? He goes, this is format called Middle Class. You can only use uncommons. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was like, why wouldn't you just play a format where you can play only rares? And he was like, well, that's just standard. And I was like, oh, okay, that's
I did say
God,
that.
it's true.
That's a direct quote.
It's so true. I look at my arena list and it's like 2 commons.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, okay. Wow.
I guess I'll play a Guild Gate on top of my all rares.
Yeah, mine's a pretty cheap deck because I play 4 Llanowar elves, and so I've got 2 more commons than most people.
Lucky.
But so this format, there are a lot of really powerful cards at uncommon. Is what I quickly realized, and so why don't you take us through some of the cards that are on the ban list?
All right. Well, as far as the ban list goes, early on, one of the better archetypes was Burn, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for a format. What we found was it was really oppressive for us to start building other decks, and so a lot of the speed that's taken out by some of the worst mana we mentioned earlier is not as prevalent an issue for the monocolored decks.
Right.
And Burn is one of those ones.
We sort of saw that at the beginning of this year's standard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's had a couple of cards taken from it. Some ones that you might question their presence on the ban list, but I promise this is well thought out. So to start us off, we've got a couple of lands that are banned. These are not from Burn, but so Strip Mine, Library of Alexandria, and Bazaar of Baghdad are banned.
Yes, they were all 3 uncommons.
I can't believe those were uncommons
I know. Arabian
God.
Nights is responsible for a lot of the messed up stuff.
in this format.
Yeah,
Wasn't there
because
back in the day there just weren't rares? There
Well,
were just
so-
commons and uncommons?
they had several
U2,
levels of
U3,
uncommon. Yeah, they
that
had several
kind of
levels of
thing.
uncommon.
Oh, wow.
And so some of the more rare uncommons were essentially the same rarity as modern rare structure, but some of the rares in those sets were like essentially mythics.
Wow.
Yeah,
Comparing it to modern like statistics and whatnot.
exactly.
Makes a lot
I
more
see.
sense
Yeah.
now.
There were also a lot less cards in those days too.
That's true.
Like the sets themselves were smaller.
So like 180 cards
Yeah,
instead
but
of like 260.
Right, but the staple rule is if it says uncommon on Gatherer,
Yeah.
legal.
So it's about
unless-
8,700, I think, is around the number.
I trust you more than myself.
and there's just no beating like that feeling that you get when you go look when you think of a card and you can't remember and you go look on Gatherer and you see that like okay rare and then there's that one silver
that
symbol.
one silver
It's like,
symbol, you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, online only or
Yeah, we're
Arabian
looking at
Nights
you,
or,
City of Brass.
yeah.
So those 3 banned, and then we got some busted artifacts that are banned. We
Let's
got
hear 'em.
Soul Ring and Skull Clamp are
Of
both
course.
banned.
Skull Clamp would be too good.
Yeah, and then here's
Same
the
with
first.
Soul Ring. Like that's just
Soul Ring
oh,
is
God.
one of those. It would be 4 of in every single deck. Like there wouldn't be a single deck that wouldn't. Play
There's no reason
it, 'cause
not to
there's
have
no
it.
reason.
It's ancient
you
tomb without the downside
Yeah,
forever.
you just
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
out lands and you just put in Soul Ring. Like it's just better.
Yeah.
It's just nuts, yeah. There's one other artifact on the list, and it is Shrine of Burning Rage. I did mention that Burn was really, really good. So Shrine was one of those things where it just gave Burn this weird plan of attack that it could just outgrind the things that were able to deal with all the burn spells.
Sure, and there's not a lot. It bears to mention too. There's not a lot of like just main deckable permanent removal.
Right.
Like in middle class
Yeah.
Magic, you don't run things like Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay.
Right,
you
those
know?
aren't legal.
No, the closest thing you have is like probably Status Statue or like Putrefy or something
Putrefy
like
or
that.
Mortify.
I guess like
Mortify and
Oblivion
Putrefy are probably
Ring.
the best.
You know,
Raid
say.
is a recent printing that is something that's kind of
has
flexible.
been pretty
in that.
good.
Okay.
O-ring type effects.
Yeah, there's a couple
those
of
are
them.
common those are frequent in the uncommon slot.
Yeah.
Conclave Tribunal.
Yeah.
Probably a pretty good rate for this format.
Stasis Field. What was the one from?
Oh, Stasis Snare.
Stasis
That's actually a
Snare.
rare.
No, it's
No,
uncommon.
that's uncommon.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
battle.
Oh, I had
Quarantine
I had
Field was the
promo
mythic
ones in
version
my
of
deck.
it. Yeah, the
Those promo
full
ones
art
look
promo.
sweet.
They were cool.
Yeah. So moving on from there, there's a couple more really busted guys. We've got Demonic Consultation,
Right.
which is the I think
Remove
it's basically
cards from the top of your deck
yeah,
until you hit the name card.
Yeah,
it's
nuts.
a tutor.
Essentially tutor. Mental
Yeah.
Misstep was an uncommon
Oh lord.
and is banned for reasons I believe we all understand.
Indeed.
Yeah, goodness gracious. On top of that, we've got Channel, Hermit Druid, Mana Drain.
Is Hermit Druid the squirrel guy?
It's the guy who so he's one.
No,
of
that's
green,
Deranged Hermit.
and he mills the top of your library until you hit a basic land. And so for a green, you green tap him, and that's what he does. So if you build your deck with no basic lands, so you play like City of Brasses and like
You just have a
Tri
lab
lands and
man
stuff,
out or something.
You mill your whole deck out, and then you just like reanimate a lab man and win the game on the spot.
Yeah.
So that it's just too.
It was too
consistent.
quick.
Yeah. On top of that, we've got Price of Progress, the second burn card that got hit.
What does Price Progress do again? I'm not familiar with that one.
So Price of Progress is 1 red for I think it's an instant.
I believe it's an instant.
Yeah, instant, and
Could be wrong.
it deals damage to each player, so it's symmetrical.
Oh wow.
For twice the number of non-basics you have in play.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it just gets to exploit its monocolor mana base even
Right.
further.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing decks that are, like multicolor decks almost essentially have to play City of Brass.
Mm-hmm.
And Price of Progress, that makes City of Brass do you 2 more than what it's already dealing you, which
Oh,
is
wow.
1 a turn,
Yeah.
which is a huge problem.
Already a benefit for burn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like it needed the added speed against those decks that are playing the off-tempo tap lands. Right?
I see.
Like they're already basically taking turns off to develop their mana base. So, moving on from there, we've got Mana Drain.
Really?
I know. Yeah.
Mana drain? Come on,
Yeah.
guys. Fair effect.
I'm the uninformed novice here. Is that the blue counter target spell?
It's a
strictly
counter spell
better
that
counter
ramps
spell.
you.
It's
Right, you
strictly
add-
a counter spell.
It's
You
plasm
add-
capture, but only for 2 blue instead of blue, green.
Add
Yeah.
mana to your mana pool equal to the countered spell
Mhm.
CMC.
Yes.
Gotcha. I thought so.
At the beginning
For
of the next
colorless.
main phase?
Beginning of your first
Your first main phase of the next turn.
Okay. Your last main phase of
That's
your first
crazy.
turn? No, I'm just kidding.
Why are you confusing
Or-
the viewers, Morgan?
Your
Why do you
third
hate
main
them?
phase following your opponent's fourth main
If you take
phase.
an extra combat phase, then you get it that main phase.
If the phase you're
fix
using it
this
in
in
is
post.
wrong.
Demonic Tutor.
Sure. I mean, you just go get something.
Yeah.
Well, okay, devil's advocate here. Why isn't Goblin Matron banned if Demonic Tutor's banned?
Well, because Goblin Matron costs 3 mana and only gets you goblins, whereas Demonic Tutor costs 1 less mana and gets you anything.
Okay, that's fair. But Goblin Matron is like pretty much...
Don't worry, we got a goblin on the list.
Okay, good.
It's actually the next card I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
So
What is it?
Great transition. Experience podcasting over here. So Goblin Recruiter is the only goblin banned.
Sure.
And that's the one who says, for you uninformed, it goes and finds any number of goblins, you shuffle your deck, and you put all the goblins you found in any order on top of your deck.
Combos with Ringleader, right?
Gosh.
Do you want to never draw land
mountains,
again?
Get the 3 mountains you need, then just draw goblins forever.
Play Ringleader, just draw 4 goblins immediately?
It was
Every time.
disgusting.
Into another ringleader?
Exactly the 4 you want.
Yeah. On top of that, the last 2 cards are... One of them was a preempted ban, which is Tinker.
Okay, so you never actually ran into a Tinker problem?
No, and there's very good reason for that to just come off.
Sure.
It does make things play really, really consistently. We figured since we were banning Demonic Consultation and Demonic Tutor that maybe some of the more busted tutors just were not things that needed to be in the format. That said, there are some still pretty good ones that put it on the top of your library.
Sure.
But the ones that put it in your hand are really hard to justify.
And Tinker puts it on the battlefield.
Yeah, which is even better.
So, like, if there was a way to break it, it'd be really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just didn't even want to.
You just don't even want to bother with it.
Yeah, we didn't want. There's
Blue
probably
Mages would
argument-
figure it out.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
There's another blue card on the ban list, actually, the last one. So this is the last one, I promise. We're not going to go on the ban list for forever. But Windfall is the last one.
Windfall.
It's
Which one is that?
It's blue Wheel of Fortune, essentially.
2 in a blue, each player discards and draws
I
7?
think each player discards their hand, and you draw cards. Each player draws cards equal to the greatest number discarded this way.
Yeah.
Oh, so you just force will a bunch of stuff and then draw your stuff back?
Or you play a bunch of Lotus Petals out,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and then...
So it let the high. You'll find out later, probably.
There's a couple of combo decks that play blue.
Yeah.
Sure.
High Tide is
Really?
one of them.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
High Tide is one of them.
And the High Tide deck does really well when it can redraw its whole hand.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and get rid of all yours.
That's gross.
Yeah, I hope you draw your lands.
I feel like I'm drowning right now.
Boo. Boo. Goodness gracious.
That's why it's banned.
All right, so ban list talk done. No more of the squashing your fun
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what you can't do. But there's so much that you can do, and that's what I wanted to talk about because one of the first things I noticed when I started playing this format is, at first I thought it would be something similar to Pauper, where there's a bunch of really strong strategies that are sort of linear and you stick to them, and that's sort of what you do. You interact on the stack in the first 3 turns. It's fast, it's efficient. But I started playing and I started realizing it's a lot more of like a mid-rangey sort of like. I don't know, almost like more battlefield interaction in this format. Like
Thanks to the slow mana base.
Oh yeah,
In part.
Yeah.
I would say the reason that I'm attracted to this format so much is the power level. Is the cards you're playing are so powerful, like the individual cards.
Right.
But the way that they fit together make it feel a lot less like you're breaking Magic.
Right.
Which is a fun thing to do for brewers. And stuff like
It's
that.
more interactive games too in that way.
Lets you feel like you played more Magic, like per game. It's one of the reasons why the other day we sat here for like 4 hours and just jammed games in middle class until you had to go home.
Yeah. And
that was funny story.
it's
That was an accident.
addicting. It really is. Like you just want to go and there are always so many options. Like once you identify weaknesses in your deck, you can just go on to gather and look for these other uncommons in the cycle, and you just discover entire new archetypes that you want to explore from that.
Exactly. And on top of that, I know you said it feels kind of mid-rangey. That's not to say that there aren't viable control strategies. I think part of it is that a lot of the people who are kind of part of the think tank, as it currently stands, are not specialists in control. And thus we have not put a ton of time nor effort into discovering the optimal way to play
They sort of turn their chin up to the notion of
You could say that.
None of us have ever put...
respectable fellows. Those
It
people.
sounds like my kind of play group.
Absolutely.
No control.
None of us have ever put counterbalance into a deck.
That's not true. I wasn't happy when I did it,
Okay.
but I would be lying if I said it hadn't happened.
That's fair.
We'll get to that in a little bit. So what do you think it is? So obviously, Tom, you brought up a good point. The powered down mana base and the powered up cards leads to obviously you have a strategy, but sometimes you have to get there in weird ways, and that creates more interactive Magic. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that leads this to be like how does this play differently than other formats that you guys have played?
There's not a lot of good mana dorks.
Interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the mana isn't perfect. You don't have things like Birds of Paradise or Noble Hierarch.
You don't even have Llanowar elves.
You don't. There are some options available.
Elves of Deep Shadow was like the one that I found because I was like, Snake usually plays as a Llanowar elf. So when I was bringing my Snake deck, I was like, well, where's the elf? You know?
There's like Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah, that in Masters 25 we got Utopia.
Yeah, so I mean, there are some ways to do it, but they're not really the normal, like turn 1 birds. Like, do you have a bolt? No, I'm gonna win.
You gotta
Right.
work for it.
I was trying to build my Vile decks, and I'm like, wait a second, where's my Noble? Where's my bird?
Yeah.
Like I don't have anything.
Where's Vials 5 through 8?
Exactly. I need them.
So would you say that this slow land and even on top of that, the lack of dorks, does that make it more like a turn 5 or 6 format?
Yeah.
Where the same modern is like a turn 3 or 4 format?
For the most part.
Yeah, I would say it's a turn 5 format.
Gotcha.
Where like you in most cases should be able to expect to be able to play Magic for at least 4 turns.
Right. Like even the fastest decks on the most nutty draws kill you at about turn 4.
No.
That's not true.
Uh-oh.
There are maybe 2 decks in the format that with their absolute best possible draw, all the things going right, can kill you turn 2.
Oh, okay, turn 2.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they're both recent brews, right?
Yes.
Cephalid Brunch.
Cephalid Brunch.
And my personal baby eggs.
Baby eggs.
No,
Yeah.
that's my personal baby.
Eggs.
Oh.
It's
That's a strange name.
matter
Aren't
what-
all eggs babies?
no,
They're
but
old
I don't need to get into the weeds on the science. but-
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not
You
an
guys
egg
know what
scientist.
I'm talking about. I'm winking at this microphone. Can anyone?
No, yeah,
Okay.
it's audible.
Can they hear that?
In fact,
Am I winking loud
if you
enough?
if you could bring that down a little bit, we'll
sorry.
fix it in post.
We'll fix
it in
We'll
post.
fix it in post. Title of the episode.
Well, you guys have piqued my interest. Just briefly before we move on, explain to me how those 2 decks can win on either turn 2 or turn 3.
Sure.
What is the nuts?
I can explain Cephalid Brunch.
Go for it.
I can't explain the name. Maybe you can, but
No, that's one of those lost to the history of Magic things. I'm sure that there are people who are listening right now that could tell you.
in fact, if you know why it's called Cephalid Brunch, formerly known as Cephalid Breakfast, let us know in the comments below.
I do have a guess.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, isn't one of the combo pieces have cephalid in the name?
Yes.
And then it
Okay,
could,
so we got there.
Halfway there.
Okay.
It could be-
It involves some sort of cephalid.
and
Cephalid illusionist.
it probably
I think.
started at breakfast because he was like, "Oh, I can win turn 2 on the nut draw." Like,
And before he was even done with breakfast.
let him eat. Like, I'm on breakfast, so let's do this. And then he figured out that it doesn't happen that often. So he decided to bump it down to brunch.
Oh.
Sometimes you wait a little longer.
Let's make it 11:30.
Let's be real. Brunch is
I'm
the
gonna
best
sleep
meal.
in for 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do it.
In terms of
It's
pure
the
quality,
illusion
though,
of breakfast.
brunch is the best. In
That's
terms of
true.
quality
Are you a
of meal,
bruncher?
But sometimes it takes a little longer.
Yeah.
Get some
It
emotions.
takes longer to get there.
It's
Yeah,
more
any
special
excuse
when
to
it
start
happens,
drinking
too.
at
It's at
11:30
least
and
as
also
sweet,
eat pancakes,
if not
I'm
more
in.
sweet,
Yeah.
you know? It's at least as
So this
sweet.
cephalid obviously has the right idea.
Yeah.
So that's how that deck works.
Yeah.
Now you'll understand.
And then for those of you who've played any formats other than like Legacy ever,
Wait,
I think it was legal in Standard at one point. I'm sure it was extended. It's legal in Modern now, or like has been previously.
So
all Eggs decks play the same. They cast a bunch of artifacts that do no thing. And
Well,
then
just
draw
real
cards.
quick too, because I don't. So I think the way that Cephalid Brunch actually works, and this is the one that Logan White, my store manager, made, is that
Yeah.
you take Cephalid Illusionist, you take a
Shuko?
Shuko, yeah, the 0 cost equip. So I think it's 2 to cast, 0 to
one
equip.
to cast.
It's 1 to cast, 0 to equip. It gets
Yeah.
+1/+1.
Yeah, because the way you win is you go
Right.
turn 1 Shuko, turn 2 Cephalid Dude.
And the Cephalid Dude says every time it becomes targeted by an ability, just any ability, you may have target player.
I think it's just you.
I think it's
Or
only
it's just you. Just draw 3 mill.
I don't think
I
it's
think it's-
May.
I think you just
you have
mill.
to.
Just mill 3.
I think
It's
you
mill 2.
I think it's Mill 2.
I think it's just you have to mill 2.
We'll
you
fix
just-
that in post, right?
Fix it in post.
Who are you yelling to?
That's what you when you
guys
fix it
up-
in post. You do it
Guys
very
upstairs.
loud.
Oh, the guy, the man upstairs.
Yeah.
upstairs.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That was
Freddy.
that's Freddie. He
This is my apartment. They're ruining my credit here.
There's not a Freddy.
We'll fix it in post. Okay. So yeah, you just do that a whole bunch. You put Labman in your yard. You put
Dread Return.
you put Dread Return in your yard, obviously, but along with
Bunch
a
of
bunch of
Narc
Narcomoebas that get put onto the battlefield.
So you can dread return back your
and then
Maniac.
and then you go, please don't kill my Labman. Pass.
And then you play. You
Here
have
you
one
go.
of the 20 removal spells
Yeah,
you can have.
yeah, I guess
That costs one, man.
Cable what is it?
Therapy. Cabal
Yeah. Like in Force, I guess you have Force Will backup usually.
Yeah.
And
Days
Cabal
is
Therapy.
also legal.
Yeah, Days is legal.
It seems
Gush
cool.
is legal.
Finding the combo pieces might be a little bit of a problem, but
No, you just
protecting it should be pet.
I mean, if you're there's
Mulligan to it.
No. So there's an age-old adage in Magic that says if you're good, you'll draw it.
That's fair. Or one of the classic things you say when someone's asking what they can do better is just draw better.
Yeah.
Like just be better.
What'd you board in against me? You draw those cards.
Yeah.
Have them in your hand. Play them.
Oh yeah, those seem
at
good.
the right times.
Okay.
Why didn't you cast those?
I don't want to get too much into the weeds on stuff with breakfast.
Sure.
So, do you want to explain eggs?
Yeah, so Eggs is a baby of mine. It's my favorite deck that I brewed because originally, back at when we first started brewing, none of us tried to break
27 years ago, I think it was.
Yeah. Back in the 60s, 1460s, of course.
People were still playing with giant stones.
I think that's there's an anime about it.
Shuffling was a nightmare. None of us tried to break Ancient Tomb, which is...
Was it just like an agreement that everyone
No,
had?
I just think we never really thought about how busted it was.
You sort of walked by the Ancient Tomb one day and just didn't really notice it there?
This is what we're talking about. So the think tank just doesn't have that many constituents as a part of it yet.
Right.
So
and it's not like everyone's trying their best to destroy a card. Wait.
Well, yeah.
But we actually did. That's how things got on this ban list.
That's how that's true.
So that's how you come up with a ban list.
The only cards,
this is not good.
The only cards that made their way on there before anyone tried them were Tinker and Demonic Tutor.
So it's almost kind of like a badge of honor.
I think Library and Bazaar were on there too because
Bazaar was originally not on the ban.
Okay, and then you tried it in Dredge and was like,
one game with Dredge. Never again.
That's how I feel against Dredge right now when I play this format.
Oh, calm down.
Anyway,
it's just because I don't understand what happens in that graveyard down there.
Yeah, but
what's going on
too
down
much
there?
is going on.
There's so many things happening down there.
There's creeping chills.
It's just a bunch of 1/1s. Calm down.
So
how is that much happening at Dakmore? I thought that was a salvage plant.
Boo.
But then I die.
Is the microphone picking up those crickets?
I don't think so.
No?
It was a joke about my joke being bad.
Explain.
Which is funny because it's even quieter now.
We'll cut it.
And I was about to ask.
We'll cut it.
I was about to ask, what's crickets? I didn't hear the crickets.
I think they're in the background when you suck.
These drunk crickets. What's going on?
They're from Brooklyn. Yeah.
Oh, they're.
That's about that.
No, actually, I read about that. There's an invasive species, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Brooklyn crickets.
That's right.
We're talking about nothing. We're back on
We're
eggs.
gonna fix this on post.
Eggs.
Right?
Back on eggs.
So tell me about eggs.
So, anyways,
30% of the time,
about
it
a
wins
month ago,
every time.
So about a month ago, I decided I'm gonna break Ancient Tomb because we banned Soul Ring. Ancient Tomb is a 0-mana Soul Ring,
Just sitting
right?
there with your bowl of cereal and your newspaper.
Well, me and Richard we somehow got back on the middle class. I don't know.
Can't read, so newspaper isn't really.
Right.
It's true.
It's nice to look at.
I like the pictures. I like the pictures. So my first attempt to break it was a ramp deck that played Uraga Tree Speaker into Bane of Balagad, which we all know is Karn in the format.
It's the best thing we've got.
There is like a 10% chance that people listening know what Bane of Balagad does.
You should Google it. It's Karn.
Why don't you just tell them?
7 mana,
7 mana,
colorless for a 7/5. When it attacks,
has an attack trigger of exiling. Your opponent exiles 2 permanents.
So it's like an annihilator, but it's not a sack.
But
does it target?
No. They get to choose.
But it's on turn 3. It's pretty good. With Eldrazi Temple also being in the format, Ancient Tomb and Eldrazi Temple.
So it attacks on 4.
It attacks on 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, that was my first attempt. It's okay. It's an okay. We kind of decided that Arborback Stomper is better, which is a problem.
It's kind of nice that Tron's just okay in this format.
Yeah, the Tron lands are also legal in this format, and I didn't put it in the ramp deck.
Right.
So that's
it's weird because all of the setup for Tron is legal in this format, right?
Yeah.
Stirrings came in Masters 25. Sylvan Scrying has always been there. Expedition Map has always been there.
Yeah.
The Tron lands themselves have been there.
Are both Sphere and Star?
Sphere and Star both.
Are they both? I knew one of them was.
No, they're both in there.
Yeah, they're both in there.
Yeah. So I mean, there's but it doesn't have the big. It doesn't have the payoffs that it does in Modern. So
right.
We just left it out. But anyways,
so that deck rares for those.
Yeah, one of the best payoffs for Tron is hilariously a card called Prophet of Distortion, which is a blue card.
What?
I know, because you just get to in Tron you get to use it to draw 11 cards over the course of the game.
Oh, that's the one that I play in.
Yeah, so
in
one,
in
two.
your
in
the
my-
one that draws
I'm
the card.
aggro, but I want to draw some cards
Yeah,
every once in a while.
Like, maybe I'll have 4 temples.
mana. Yeah, I'll have
maybe
4
I'll
mana.
Yeah, there you
I'll have
go.
2
sitting
temples.
around.
You know,
Temples,
it's
yeah,
there.
and a
It's
vial.
there.
So
Am I yelling? I feel like I'm yelling.
Yeah.
You
know what? Calm down.
We're all yelling. But anyway, so that deck was good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't good enough to break Ancient Tomb. You know.
Right. You weren't unsuccessful.
So I then discovered a card called Helm of Awakening, which everyone knows what that card is.
Everyone knows.
But if you don't,
I didn't. I was really happy when he told me what it did, and I was playing against him. I was like, ooh,
imagine
my spells are cheaper.
Imagine Thorn of the Amethyst, but it does.
Oh, how wrong I was.
Imagine Thorn of the Amethyst, but it does the opposite thing. So it makes spells cost 1 less. Everyone's spells. Your spells, my spells, everyone's spells cost 1
So
less.
it's fair because
Yeah,
it works both ways.
it's even, you know?
Symmetrical.
I then was like, okay, let's see
Fair.
what one...
Balanced.
I was like, all right, so we can turn 1 this with Tomb. And I thought, there's going to be a way to break this. Like, there has to be. And we already knew that
Wait,
Star...
you can turn 1 the win? Or turn 1...
No, turn 1, play Helm.
Sure.
Which should lead to some busted things. And I knew Star and Sphere were uncommons. So
would be free with that discount.
so it would be 0 mana, float a colored mana of your choice, draw a card.
So then I imagine you had to dig really deep into the eggs well
I Googled...
to find the ones.
I gather searched artifacts that were uncommon that had CMC equal to or less than 2.
Right.
I found Sensei's Dividing Top, which we already kind of knew was there.
Right. Just no one was really talking about it.
And then
we were talking about it.
I stumbled upon these old brown cards back when artifacts were brown.
Yeah, we call those mud, right?
That were eggs.
Yeah.
the actual egg.
The actual eggs.
You're right. They are the Sky Shroud egg.
Yeah, that's where like the original egg was.
Yeah. So,
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about
So,
that.
anyways.
No, I believe you.
I don't think you do believe me.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, I
don't believe him.
I thought, okay, this is sick. I can play eggs for free, draw a bunch of cards. How do I win? Tendrils of Agony is in the format. I'm casting a bunch of spells with eggs.
Hold on. Your first attempt was not a Tendrils of Agony list.
It had 2 of them.
Excuse me?
No, the first attempt was a Brain Freeze list.
Oh, it was. It was mono blue. Because we had previously built a High Tide combo deck.
Sure.
And then he looked at me and was like, don't do something another deck's doing that's worse. Like, doing it worse.
What's the
Right.
cardinal rule in deck building is
Yeah.
whatever deck you build or brew or
Make
come
sure
up
it's
with
not a worse version.
of another deck.
Yeah. So,
Or if it is, make sure it's a really fun version.
Right. And so I
You're trying
said,
to win here?
I said, okay, well, mana's a problem because all
Maybe
the eggs...
some of you are.
I said, mana's a problem because some of the eggs, the eggs only make 2 mana.
Right.
And I was like, what rituals are in there? And he was like, well, Cabal rituals in here. And I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Not
and
bad.
he was like, all the eggs put themselves in the graveyard. And I was like, that's a very good point. And then tendrils and what's the...
Rain of Filth.
Rain of Filth. So our first version had like Rain of Filth.
Rain of
and
Filth is in
tendrils
Tendrils and Legacy.
Yeah.
Like they play like as a 1 of, I think. It's one that lets you sack your lands to add a black.
Yeah. That's it. Was actually it's in Ultimate Masters as well.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's an uncommon in Ultimate Masters.
I need to look back at that
Yeah.
spoiler.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
It's cool. Anyways, so basically all you do is you play out Helm, you play a bunch of eggs, and then you tendril people.
Okay.
So it can turn 2. It's
So you think you've broken Ancient Tomb.
I don't think the list is right yet.
But you're
I'm
getting closer.
I'm convinced. It's now 5 colors. So.
All right. Well, before we get into the crypts here,
Yeah.
so we know what sort of cards are really powerful in these sorts of strategies that you, I guess, you were drawn to yourself. But like, what have you learned about just like the colors in general and the archetypes in general? Like, are there some standout cards that seem to, because like in Modern right now there are all sorts of cards like that. Like, do you have anything to say
Right,
about
like
that?
if you're in the color, you play this card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this
Well,
is.
So monocolored decks really feel pretty coherent. Daniel mentioned earlier that it doesn't feel like you're breaking Magic when you're doing a lot of the powerful things. And part of
Right.
that is because you don't just have access to, I don't know, I kind of want to play a white spell into a red spell into a Jeskai spell.
Mm-hmm. I want to do that.
Right. Well, you might want to.
We
do
all
that.
wanna do
and
that,
you can do that on turns 2, 4, and 5 respectively.
Yeah.
That's where I live.
With a Sylvan library somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So
why not?
You're doing good things too.
Yeah. So we actually have a top 3, and most of the like single color archetypes. And there's some bunch of gold cards that are really powerful too, but I'd like to leave those up there's going to be some mystery left for the viewer.
Can't believe
Reflector Rage.
Calm down.
I disagree.
Sorry, flashbacks, man.
I disagree with
Flashbacks.
some of the cards on this list.
Well,
So let's go Wooburg.
Yeah, let's go Wooburg. You know what? You're the resident white mage, so I'm gonna let you
I
run
am.
through these.
So I do like the 3 that he put on for white. They include Swords to Plowshares, which is arguably the best removal spell of all time. Targeted removal spell.
Probably, yeah. Don't really give too much.
You also have its cousin Path to Exile in the format.
Yeah,
So if
that's not on the list though. I was trying
Yeah.
to keep it diverse.
you got Mother of Runes, otherwise known as
All right,
Mom.
Mom's in this format.
Yeah, which
Keeping things in check.
the
making sure
majority
the kids don't misbehave.
the majority of the time,
Turtle Mom?
your opponent, it's like, because the removal's good in this format, they're like, you got it? Oh, you don't? I win the game.
Boom.
Like that kind of, it's like sometimes that happens, but she's great. And then Land Tax, another personal favorite of mine. It's a lot of people don't think it's that powerful, but I think it's disgusting.
A lot of people also don't believe that it was printed on Uncommon.
That's true.
Gatherer.
But I do think that Enlightened Tutor should have also been put on here because we talked about the tutors that put the cards
Is that
at the top of
artifact
the deck.
or enchantment?
It is.
And there's a whole cycle of creatures that do that in their type too, right? Like from Morrowind,
there
Yeah, I
are.
believe so.
like
yeah.
elementals and goblins and
There's
fairies
also
and stuff.
from Ixalan.
Yeah, the Forerunners.
The Forerunners.
Vampires, merfolk, dinosaur.
So there are two.
Gotta be a dinosaur brew out
What's
there.
the
I'm sorry, I
fourth
couldn't.
one?
Merfolk.
You already said Murphy. Did you not?
Dinosaur.
Merfolk, dinosaur,
Am I-
vampire,
Dinosaur.
Pirate.
pirate.
It's the
Pirate.
pirate.
Yeah,
It's the pirate.
The
And that
pirate's
guy's pretty good
that's
too
the
with his
good one.
reigns.
I
You
was-
can just like Zulport Cutthroat on 2, that guy on 3.
No, you play Kaito Freebooter in that deck because he's also a pirate.
Well, yeah, you can play both of them, right?
Calm
You
down.
can.
Okay, you're right.
But anyway, I think Enlightened Tutor should have also been put on the list. I think it probably should have been number 1 on the list. I think it's one of the more busted cards in the format. Because
Also, it stands to mention too, there aren't a lot of shuffle effects for free in this
Right.
format.
Not-
which
That's
is
one of the first things I learned. Like, I was like, oh, I can play Brainstorm in Library in my Bloodbraid deck. And I was like, wait a second. They're all still here. I don't have
I'm not seeing 3
A
cards.
card I already knew was there.
old news deck.
Masters 25 gave us Ash Barons,
Which was-
Pauper All-Star.
which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Ash Barons is great.
And then I think other than that shuffle effects, we're talking about like there's the Imperial Recruiter in red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a pretty good
There's
one.
there's a lot of the green tutors, worldly tutors,
Worldly,
Sylvan.
Sylvan,
And I think there's a 2-mana one that does it too.
probably, who knows.
There's also a 1-mana artifact that says tap shuffle your library. Fun fact.
4 of those going in every deck. No. Well, that's the thing is like in Modern, your mana bases are going to include anywhere from usually like 7 to like 12 fetches.
Natural-
and that's
then
just free.
And Legacy,
that's just
when you're
necessary.
playing, the other format you play Brainstorm is your plan is to shuffle your library.
play like
And
10
you're like, oh sweet,
Right.
draw these 3 cards, put these 2 garbage ones, shuffle them away.
Well, and that's what I think. I guess I'll put a pin in this idea because I want to have a little bit of a conversation about counterbalance. But we'll save that for later. But that's just like one of the things about Brainstorm that I realize, and about the different formats too, is that like I hear Brainstorm's this powerful card, but like the next level is watching it being played in Legacy and understanding why it's powerful, and then you bring it over to something like this because that was my first inclination. I was like, oh, I can sculpt my Cascades. This is going to be great. And then I realized, wait a second, the format's not friendly to this in the same way.
Brainstorm locking is a common thing.
So here's the
where
thing.
you're just like looking for lands, don't find lands, alright, I'm not drawing lands.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just seeing the same cards over and over. What's going on here?
First of all, I do think that was a pretty good transition given that blue is next up in the Wooburg order.
That's
for the
right,
cards.
that's right.
But you just keep talking about all these cards I want to tell all the people about, man.
I'm sorry,
Before
man.
we get there.
We get too excited.
I'm gonna
There are
go
only
home.
so many.
You should do
uncommons.
blue.
I should do blue.
Do
so,
blue.
Thus far, as far as blue cards go that are legal, you've mentioned Brainstorm and Counterbalance, which are 2 of the 3 cards that I listed on here.
Whoops.
I know. Oh, what an accident, huh?
But I talked about how I don't understand them, so now you can enlighten me.
Yeah. So Brainstorm is good, but its power level is almost entirely context dependent.
It's a lot worse when you can't shuffle your library.
Right. When it is a card that lets you see 3, possibly 4 new cards if you include a shuffle effect, then it's fantastic. If you're not looking for something that is immediately impacting, but you're trying to sculpt towards a future hand. But one of the things that makes that a relevant piece of text or possibility is that you have the ability to shuffle your deck kind of freely and at will. So to do that cheaply and in a way that doesn't actually net you down cards is kind of difficult to manage. In that way, one of the things that is really good in this format is if you can play Brainstorm alongside a couple of effects. There's the tutors we mentioned that shuffle your library and put a card on the top so you know what you're going to draw for the next turn. There's also Ash Barrens, which finds you lands. And then beyond that, you know...
Was there a cycle of, like, Evolving Wild style lands that entered tapped, but brought the land in untapped?
There are slow fetches. So
Right,
if you're familiar with, like, regular fetch lands, there's some slow fetches. I think they're also allied colored.
Yeah. They enter tapped, but then you fetch. And it doesn't cost you a life.
And the fetch... Yeah, and the land enters untapped when you fetch.
Yes.
Okay.
So moving on from Brainstorm, there's also Counterbalance, which is the big boogeyman is Countertop. You know, people who are familiar with Legacy will tell you that engine, Brainstorm, Counterbalance, and Sensei's Divining Top, is a really, really powerful control package. But because the format is a little bit slower, the mana costs are a little bit more diversified. And if you're trying to have the ability to counter anything from 1 through 5, that's a much more bigger ask than countering most of the ones.
And even
because of the I see what you mean. Yeah.
Even with Force of Will also being in the format, that got left off the blue list somehow, and so is Counterspell. There are there's a lot of really good.
I'll speak to the mayor.
There are a lot of really good blue cards.
Speaking.
Also really blue cards, but really good blue cards. But the format has kind of, the way that we've at least been able to play with it has been very proactive.
So let me just level. It's not that you have strayed away from these ideas. It's that you've played with them and they're just not as elegant as they are in the faster formats.
Either that or a good analogy, I think, would be to point towards the modern deck Amulet Titan, which is a deck that a while ago Jerry T and a think tank of his other people, his friends, his comrades in arms, or whatever you might call them, tried to pick up the deck and said, this deck has got something here, but we're not the people smart enough or talented enough to figure out what it needs.
Right.
So they put it down, they set it aside, and they stored it away for a later day.
It's a powerful engine.
Right.
Don't know how it works.
We know the engine is here. It's the setup that my brain doesn't have. So it's not to say those cards aren't broken and aren't in need or aren't problematic. It's that we haven't figured out a way to prove them that way thus far, and so we're not going to restrict other people from trying to figure that out.
So you hear that, Blue Mages?
Yeah, if you like legacy control decks, break it.
Yeah. The last card on the blue list, as it currently stands, is High Tide, which we did mention. So High Tide's there along with Turnabout, and also Cloud of Fairies.
Cloud of Fairies.
Yeah. So there's some untapped effects to go along with it. You just got to play basic islands.
What's the one that's the enchantment that lets you draw cards when Standstill?
Yeah.
Standstill is also, we have yet to break Standstill. I have tried. The deck looked really bad.
Okay.
In his
Daniel
defense,
couldn't break it, so
most of his decks look really bad on their first try.
That's true.
but those are the ones that
he laughed at Boros Battle Cries, my first ever brew in this format.
Yeah, we're not gonna get stuck on Boros Battlecry. We're gonna move on. So
Single Pest is busted.
We'll start talking about. There's some other really powerful blue cards. There's Mystical Tutor. There's a whole ton of
Force
things.
of Will.
Yeah.
Although having played against a few Force of Will, like my Logan has brewed some Force of Will stuff. Something I've noticed is just that like 1-for-1 countering where you just or I guess not 1 for, but like 2-for-1 countering
yourself. It's a big deal.
Is actually not great in this format.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like you're saying. It's not like haha, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. What do you do now?
Right.
Well,
Force of Will is the police in Legacy, but there's very little to police as it currently stands in this format.
I see. So when the police do arrive, they might look something not like a 5 mana hit you and throw away a card.
Exactly.
Yeah. I see. So moving on, we have red.
Black cards.
Oh wait,
black cards. That's how Wooburg goes, man. W-U-B.
Not Wurbug.
Oh god.
Worse.
Sorry, y'all.
Worse. You threw an extra U in there too.
Yeah, I know.
It's a disorder.
We gotta say blue
it is.
Yeah, man.
Have you seen a doctor about that?
No, man. I can't see him. I get him mixed up. I
You
always go to the dentist.
So I'm actually feeling bad. You actually have dyslexia.
No, I don't.
Thank God. I thought I was just gonna put my foot in my mouth.
Fix it in post.
Can someone fix this in post?
Do you want black or do I get black?
I'm gonna give you black because you had so many problems with the cards I put on the list.
Right. So I am gonna go ahead and mention another of people's.
Go through the list first.
Okay, so the list that we have down, he crossed out Fatal Push. I'm gonna mention Fatal Push because it's 1 mana removal spells. They're sick. Swords and Path, Push. They're all staples in Modern and Legacy.
Right.
Well, Path not.
Again,
much,
you have the
but-
not having a fetch.
Yeah, which is makes Push a little worse.
Oh,
but
Path's a shuffle effect.
Path is a shuffle effect.
Oh, that's true.
But it's a shuffle effect for the other person.
You
normally
can path your own creature.
Normally.
I remember you guys. I can't remember who it was. I think it was you, Richard, who showed me the Fatal Push activate top to activate Revolt.
That's one of the...
Which is like one of maybe the way to do it.
One of the easiest ways to do it.
You can use top to activate Revolt by drawing with it because it removes the permanent from your battlefield, which is really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
And then some other ones, a recent standard all-star Chupacabra, Ravenous Chupacabra.
Lurking Chupacabra, yes. -2/-2.
They are both legal.
They are both legal.
I know.
There are 2 Chupacabras in the format.
I looked at him for my abs and Explorer list, and I was like, not today, old friend.
Chupacabra Tribal is alive. Ravenous Chupacabra.
And well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A format 2/2 seems pretty busted for the format, with top and counterbalance in it.
It kills a thing.
Yeah, I know the ETB.
Explore 3 times, kill a Bane of Baal again.
Yeah.
I'm in.
You only got all
This
you
is
gotta
like
do is
turn
manage-
5.
Oh, it's like turn 6. What is forceful?
You've been attacked like 6 times by this.
You just played 3 Into the Unknown. Yeah. Come on.
Yep.
Come on. Have you even played the game Magic?
But I think
Clearly not.
Black is kind of this.
If you thought Explore was bad.
So Black in this format kind of to me takes the role of a white deck in Modern or Legacy.
Like a disruptive aggro.
Yeah, it's super disruptive. You have Inquisition of Kozilek, which is a really good
enough for Modern.
It's efficient.
Hymn to Turok, which is probably the best at its rate, Stone Rain.
It's not Stone Rain. Also, there's
haven't played it enough.
There's Sinkhole.
There is Sinkhole.
Actual Sinkhole's black. That's an actual
true.
Stone Rain card.
Yeah, but that only kills 1 land, not 2.
Well, actually, in defense of Turok, normally when it's cast against me, it's discarding 2 Bloodbraid Elves. So
It's called a
so
Goblin.
it's the old 4 for 1.
Yeah. But Hymn to Turok is a really big one.
I wish I was kidding.
Richard put Curse of
Don't cast
Disturbance,
against
the curse that he was talking about.
Yeah, we mentioned that
earlier.
earlier. That card is incredibly powerful.
It's great.
A lot of the Commander
great.
curses
They're sweet.
are pretty good.
Yeah.
What's the green one that you were talking about in your
Curse
snake
of
deck?
Predation.
Predation.
I love playing. When I first got into Standard, it was like black-green was the thing to do with Nissa and Snake and Grim Flare and Lily. The Last Hope was legal back then too.
That's hot.
Yeah, it was great. It was the most fun I've had playing Standard up until this season, where it's gotten healthier. But when I realized I could experiment 1 on turn 1, Snake on 2, and then hit my opponent with a Curse of Predation to put a 1/1 counter on each of my creatures whenever they're attacked.
Pretty gross.
Pretty good.
It's really like 2 if you got a snake.
It's closer to 4 if you have a Corpse Jack.
Well, that's common.
We're gonna cool on it. And like there's we already mentioned Cabal Ritual and Tendrils of Agony, which are pretty commonly known cards from Legacy Storm.
Yes, I mean, but you have a bevy of options. There's combo cards present. There's some aggro cards present. There's mid-range cards, a little disruptive elements.
Some of the best aggro cards actually, like in black.
Yeah, there's some joke ones that we're not going to talk about here.
Sarcomancy.
That card's actually really good.
Sarcomancy not bad.
Yeah, it's really good against Bane of Balagate specifically.
Specifically
because
Bane
you
of
can
Balagate,
exile the enchant.
that was the original test subject for the Black deck.
It doesn't take a lot to be really good against Bane of Balagate, does it?
Well,
hey.
No,
it's basically Karn, okay?
I don't
Moving
know
on.
Balagate. I don't care what he does.
Okay, so like we said, Black has a bunch of different options available to it. It can kind of mold itself into any archetype it really wants to be, which is interesting.
We have this joke, the best card in Middle Class is Basic Swamp.
Best legal card.
Best legal card.
Right.
Is Basic Swamp. I think it would be taken over by
Library.
I was thinking Bazaar.
Library.
It's
Library, 100%.
But anyways, beside the point,
Some go to the market, other go to the library.
I think black is really a fun color in Middle Class, and it has a lot of.
You bring up a great point. It seems like it's really flexible because one of the things I noticed playing the black decks you guys brew is like they have these. It reminds me a little bit of Humans, where it has these like insane aggro draws, and then it also has these mess up your hand interactive.
Turn 1
draws.
Inquisition.
Right.
It also has Gifted Aetherborn and Vampire Nighthawk, which are 2 really sweet like if you want to go Vampire Tribal or something like that.
Or Middle Lords. There's like a Lord.
I think
there
there's
are
a
two lords.
red black.
Oh
one.
yeah.
There's the white black one and the red black one, 2 and 3. And the red black one gives first strike.
Yeah,
that's hot.
And
you stop saying that saying. Can we fix that in post?
That's
thanks, Tom.
But
that's all right with me.
Overall, I think
we'll just cut it in so it just says all right with me.
Yeah, sure. So you should have a counter for how many times we say fix that in post.
Oh man, that card is all right with me.
Oh man, my evil laugh.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's good combo, good aggro, good mid range in black. So I think it's one of the.
So it's a nice starting point for anyone who's
definitely
used to the format.
Also, it has one of the.
And you can look at your opponent's hand and go oh, this is what you're up to.
Yeah.
It also has a.
Or at least pretend to know you.
The information game is pretty important, I think.
Yeah. Also, Planar Void.
Oh, so one of the best sideboard cards is this card called Planar Void. So those of you who play Modern, and I guess I've occasionally seen it in like Death and Taxes and Legacy sometimes, Rest in Peace is a really powerful anti-graveyard strategy card.
Imagine playing it on turn 1.
Yeah, so at Uncommon there was a card called Planar Void, which is black for an enchantment.
Almost better than playing it on turn 0.
So it has half of the abilities of Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the Enters the Battlefield ability where it exiles all cards in graveyards, but it does have the replacement effect text where it says, if a card would go to the graveyard, instead exile it.
From anywhere.
From anywhere.
Yeah, like I was brewing around with a nullifier deck that ingested cards, and I was like looking up the rules, and I realized that when you ingest a card and take an opponent's card from exile and put it into their graveyard, Planar Void actually just puts it right back into the void.
Yeah.
Just like
recycling it for future
It does half of what Rest in Peace does for half the mana, and twice of what Leyline of Void does for a fourth of the mana.
It also has some super. It also has some. Oh wow! Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to spin. And you want to spin.
Math. Okay.
Well, the thing is, you want to spin four slots on it. You don't have to spin four. It's not this thing that you draw it late and you're just like, oh my god.
Especially when you're playing a deck that has Enlightened Tutor in it also. You can play one.
True.
And it has some awesome flavor text.
It does have some awesome.
I think the art is cool too.
What is it? It's something like some cheeky joke by Xantra that's like planes walking, more like planes falling.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
And they're in the void.
Yeah.
But it's kind of dark. It's like basically you thought you could planeswalk forever in an eternity of nothingness.
Yeah. We said that black's a really flexible color. If you're looking for basically the polar opposite of that, if you are a burn player, if you want to do the one thing all the time, red is pretty powerful and very mana efficient in this.
Obviously.
We have 2 cards banned from it currently, and there's there's some still busted stuff going on.
Also, I want to point out that Richard's list for this is really wrong.
I think 2 of the cards that I have listed here are fantastic.
The third one,
I just want to show something different. Let me do my list, and you can tell me how wrong I am later, like you always do.
Is there a list that you like of his?
No, not at all. That's true. I agreed with the white one. All I did was add Enlightened Tutor.
That's true. So the 3 cards I have listed for the red list are Lightning Bolt, which I think is obvious. It's one of the most powerful red cards ever.
Absolutely.
Obviously, one of my favorite creatures in the color, Monastery Swiftspear.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic card. Haste, 2 toughness. I don't know why it has 2 toughness.
Nope.
And prowess, which means lets you do kind of your face thing in the main phase.
Say the next one.
I'm gonna move to the next one, and it's an oldie but a goodie.
Oh god.
It's high with
okay. What do you have for us here?
Flame Tongue Kavu.
No.
Yes. Why even list it?
Chupacabra was on here earlier. Now that's a card I understand.
Chupacabra has 2 less power than Flame Tongue.
That's true.
It also actually kills the creature.
So my favorite thing about Flame Tongue Kavu, and part of the reason why I put it on here is because I have a bit of a nostalgia for it myself.
Oh, of course. Just jumping out of the water and just like,
well, when I first started playing format, I was playing it online a lot, right? One of my good friends who moved back to Dallas was playing a deck with Flame Tongue Kavu, and it was a mid-range deck.
Sure.
And
I believe that deck was only Flame Tongue Kavu.
No. It was the...
Did that come later?
It was the Mardu deck.
Okay, well, he eventually brewed a deck that was only...
Just like Chupacabra into Flame Tongue into Necrotal into
all the things that
Big
kill
Game Hunter or whatever.
Yeah. Regardless of that, though.
Love it. That's like my Mesmeric Fiend deck.
Yeah. So he cast a 2 minutes blast, which I think I sacked my creature in response to the Cascade, and he cascaded into a Flame Tongue Kavu. And he's like, oh, sweet, Flame Tongue Kavu.
Uh-oh.
And it was the only
creature.
He
doesn't know.
There were no creatures on board, so he cast it, and he goes, wait, it's making me target itself. And it just died.
What a cruel introduction to Flame Tongue Kavu.
He goes, what just happened? I was like, oh, it's not a May. And it's any target creature. So
this is why Chupacabra's better. It's target creature and opponent control.
And then I won that game. Because...
Well, yeah.
It was beautiful.
You could have said
he took out one of his threats for no reason.
Flame Tongue Kavu just jumps out of the sea.
Look, there's some other really good cards. Fire Blast is legal in the format.
Yeah,
Another one I was impressed by was what's legal in the format?
Fire Blast. As in the free legacy. It's not actually
free. 6 damage or 5 damage?
It's 4 damage. It's 6 mana.
With Electrostatic Field, it's 5.
Well, let's calm down.
With Gutter Snipe and Electrostatic Field.
Ha, cha. Now we're in business, boys.
I don't know why he's so in the numbers on this. We're talking about fourths and sevens, and goodness gracious.
Listen, they're dead.
Yeah.
That's all you need to
All that
know.
matters is face.
I'm sacking 2 mountains. You're probably not alive.
Right this way, sir. Through
Fire
the-
Blast is really good. Like there are some mid-range options that you can play. Some reasons why we're showing Flametongue Kabu here. Like there are some bigger cards if you want to
Sure,
play Big Red.
sure.
Like one of the interesting cards I think a Big Red deck would love to try out. That's not on this list and probably doesn't deserve to be on the list, but is an interesting one to experiment with. Is Wily Goblin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The treasure maker?
Yeah, who
Yeah,
makes a
red
treasure.
red.
Is
One
red
for a treasure.
He says
It's like ramping. That's like when you look at how few dorks there are. I mean,
yeah,
that seems like a great
It's
effect.
any color. It ramps you in a color that doesn't normally get access to ramp very
It has
easily.
perhaps artifact synergy going on
Yeah,
there. You know?
something
Yeah,
along
definitely.
there. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting card to try to consider. There are other things available in red, but the primary thing is burn. They keep getting more burn tools. There's Gutter Snipe. Recently printed was Electrostatic Field and Guilds of Ravnica.
Whenever I think of this, I always just come back to Shrapnel Blast.
Yeah.
I'm just like 5 damage for 2 mana. Let me have it.
It's true. It's
Where can
pretty
we
good.
go?
It's pretty good.
I'm gonna tune the Big Scissor.
We probably.
We're not gonna
gotta stop-
hang on Big Scissor.
We
we're
gotta
not
stop
gonna hang on
dropping
that. It's
deck
not gonna
names,
happen.
man.
So I almost want to let you read off the green list.
Okay, yeah.
If you could read my handwriting, do you think?
Yeah, I probably can.
Well, I mean, if anybody here is a green mage,
It's me.
it's you.
Yeah. I like creatures, and I like them to do things, and I like to play all the colors, even though it's not responsible to play all the colors.
It's true. I mean,
That's
you
what
gotta leave
people tell
something
me.
for someone else.
But man,
I think Kadama's Reach was an uncommon once.
No, I think it is common.
Every time.
I
think it
am
might
not
have
going
been
to bet
printed
you a Flame
uncommon.
Inspector on it, but
I think it's uncommon in a commander set, actually. Yeah.
So you could play 5.
mayhaps.
Cultivate, too. Like, it's the same
I
card,
think
right?
Cultivate.
Cultivate?
Can we fix that in post?
No, we have
That's
to leave. We
okay
have
with
to leave
me.
that in. I think that.
All right, I need you to read the list so I don't.
Okay,
talk
yeah.
anymore.
Okay, green. We have what was formerly Blossoming Defense, but
still
now
good
is
one.
Berserk. Essentially, they do.
Appropriately changed, I believe.
Oh, shocking that
Berserk
Daniel
says I win the
disagrees.
game. Blossoming says.
Oh, excuse me,
One of my
Mr.
things
Younger Wyatt.
Sometimes Blossom.
Blossoming Defense, you say?
So sometimes Berserk
You must
is-
be Berserk. I'm sorry.
It's so quiet in here after that joke. Anyway, so Berserk also functions as a removal spell from time to time.
Right,
It is
because-
target attacking creatures. So if they're hitting you with like some innocuous
That's
one.
a huge amount of flexibility.
Let's
I've
say your
only played
opponent
with.
attacks you
You're
with
still
a
in
Mardu
combat.
Shadow Spear.
Right.
You stop at the end of
Oh,
combat.
beautiful, and you look at the Shadow Spear and you say, wow, despite the
Wait,
beautiful
Mark.
full art.
Well, I said innocuous 1/1, did I not? I said innocuous.
That's why it's
1/1.
called
Or
middle
you
class
even
magic, you
better
know?
one too, with the similar effect of Vicious Conquistador.
No, that one's objectively worse.
I agree.
Well, that's why it's middle class magic. You show up at the battlefield and it's not, it's not it's not Tassiger who's there. Salumgar is long gone. It's
Yeah.
the Mardu Shadow
Fancy
Spear.
guys. Hey guys, you hear me? I don't know
Stay
why
away
he
from
sounds
my-
like
I've
No
always
mad
hated that its
outpost.
dash cost wasn't white or red. Because it's named Mardu Shadow Spear. It's lying.
There's
Yeah,
shadow in the name.
You're
It's
right. I
gotta
have
be
spent a
black.
lot of time thinking about that in my
like,
life
it's-
as well.
Have you?
It's just Shadow Spear.
If you had spent that much time thinking about it, you probably have too much time.
It's true.
All right. I don't mean to be mean.
That was the joke.
Oh, I'm done.
So first card on the list, Berserk. Just ends games really quickly, and that flexibility as a removal spell. I've only played the card once, and it was in an Eternal Masters sealed PPTQ, and that's where I first learned. I was like, oh, there's a reason this thing is a mythic in that set. Sylvan Library, obviously, just an incredible effect
Yeah.
for what it does. Great to cascade into off of Bloodbraid or Shardless, which
Very
is where
fun
I
with
love it.
Dredge.
You can
Ooh,
call
I
it fun. I would oppressive is almost the terminology that I would prefer.
Yeah.
Oh wow, God, I can
very
imagine.
good.
Well, you don't
Very
don't
good.
put any cards back.
Yeah.
Because you don't ever draw any cards in the way that Sylvan Library is worded. It says cards you've drawn this turn, put them back or pay for life. And you're like, but I didn't draw any, Judge. And the judge goes, okay, I guess you get to keep all your cards.
Wow.
And all your life, by the way. That's the important thing.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know, it's dumb. It's really dumb.
Okay, I'm watching out for that one then. And then finally, Jiraga Tree Speaker, which is what, 1 for a 1/2?
I think it starts as a 1/1.
It's a 1/1.
And you
It's
pay 2 to level it up, and
This
then it
is a-
taps for green.
Everyone who's
It has
played
for green.
cubes online
It becomes a 1/2
know what
level.
Uraga Tree
Yeah,
Speaker
it's there's like, in fact, LSV answered that famously on limited resources, famously answered that question about turn 1 birds or no, not birds. It was
Heritage Druid?
Something like that. Like it was like, do I play a turn 1 Heritage Druid, or do I play a turn 2, or do I play a turn 1 Jiraga? And like, you know, his answer was that you always play Jiraga first.
Yeah.
It's always just going to get you further. Which is to say, it's a good dork, but it's not a like, you don't have the color options for dorks that you normally have.
Well, that's what I was trying to say earlier when I mentioned birds and I mentioned Noble Hierarchy. You don't have the diversity.
It's kind of the
colors
closest
provided.
thing you get.
It is like the most mana for investment in
Right.
regards to dorks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But
man.
it's the
I just
most
wanted to be
efficient.
clear. Yeah, it's the most efficient, and you know the ramp deck that Daniel built with when he was trying to cast Bane of Balagad, the kind of it's like Eldrazi green type of deal. That was one of the most impressive cards every single time. Was that card when he had that card on one versus when he had one of his other dorks on one, or if he had none.
Like Veteran Explorer or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Veteran Explorers are really
Explorer
powerful
seems
card.
bad in this format just because of all the basics that both people have.
Yeah, but
It
you don't want to
depends
give them the lands. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where you're like, I just don't know if I can actually.
You really
capitalize
have to
on
be
that.
doing something good with the extra mana.
Yeah.
And at least we haven't figured that out yet. Again, one of those things where it's not to say the card isn't
Right.
busted. We just clearly don't have the
Well,
type
and it's
of
like
card to pick it
it's
up.
cool too, because it's not like in Modern you are limited by what your deck wants to do. We can always make it shorter or longer.
Cool.
In Modern, you're sort of like, you say, here's what my deck wants to do, what are the cards that fit in. You kind of can do that in middle class Magic too, but like, if you're looking for something like an exploitable dork on one, you just sort of have to throw like any color out the window. Like, you know, Elves of Deep Shadow is the one that I found. I was like, well, black. Can I find a way to exploit black on 2 off of green? But then you're like now getting into this weird spot where your mana has to line up the right way for that dork, and that's not why you play dorks. And so it's like an interesting part of the format, and I think it's why I've like been still trying to find my footing in like my creature aggro sort of strats, because man, Vile strategies, especially when they're aggro Vile strategies instead of like Death and Taxes style strategies, they really do want an accelerant off of that Vile. They want to make up for that turn 1 where they played the Vile.
Yeah, they do.
And then something comes.
They want a way
up,
to kind of negate the tempo they lost. That's one reason why I think Vile actually might be really good in like a mid-range style deck. We've played a bunch of different Vile builds. Nothing that's ever been, wow.
I want to play Vile in a deck with Wall of Resurgence. That's one of the ones I'm really excited to brew.
I do love Wall of Resurgence. I mean, it's one of those cards where when you blink it kind of gets out of hand. That said,
Treetop Village and Fairy Conclave are legal in this format,
here's
dude.
the thing, though.
You could put some moment counters on your Fairy Conclave, fly on over.
You haven't had your land bolted before, have you?
I have. And that's what, because this was in Standard when I was playing Standard, and I tried my darndest to make Noyan Dar have his day, in the limelight or whatever, and it did not work. It's just whenever the lands died, I was just like, man, I am such a doofus. I've just stone rained myself for a 0/6. You look over at the 0/6, you're like, wow.
It's gonna block really well, but you also just like got rid of your land.
That's
So,
why
who knows?
you gotta run Assault Formation.
Oh Lord. Moving on
That's
past
for
Assault
another time.
Formation. We're not gonna stick there. Oh,
No, that's not important. I apologize.
No problem.
Although we are at about the hour and 20-minute mark, so we're approximately like good as far as timing goes. We shouldn't have an abrupt end, but I thought y'all did great. But maybe a natural conclusion.
yeah,
coming,
sure.
Coming
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll move on that.
Sorry.
So there are also a couple really powerful artifacts. I think some of the ones that Daniel mentioned when he was talking about the eggs archetype earlier. We discussed the mana a little bit. Quick summary. There's some other ones that are just like quick hits.
Please.
Aether Hub, City Brass is one of the best cards in the format.
I think like a lot of this is
Sigurd.
fluff that's going to be cut anyway. So
Sorry, we shouldn't rush through the end. That's not what I mean. Only that we're at the right. We're good.
Right.
We can just naturally conclude.
And there's some creature lands to go on as well. I mean, like if you really wanted to use
Like
them.
he mentioned, Treetop Village and Fairy Conclave. They're both great. Also,
Mistress Factory.
Mistress Factory, which
Oh, yeah, I
is
forgot about
a
that.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
are
Fantastic
both of the
defensive.
major lands legal?
No, actually, you know what? I think
I think
Urza's
they are,
Factory
actually.
is legal.
Yeah.
I think Urza's
It
Factory is
might
also
be,
legal.
yeah.
It's the one that taps for 7 and tap it and you make a 2/2.
Make it
Yeah.
2/2, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that one's legal.
A little worse, but
Tron, I mean, Modern Tron I've seen Modern Tron lists play one of that card. So,
Yeah.
like, there's a spot for it. It might not be
Yes,
this
sir.
format, though.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the powerful like kind of cards in the different colors. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, there's some really great gold stuff. You mentioned some of the Cascaders yourself, some of the Lords. There's a lot of access to different things like that. You'd be kind of surprised. Like I said, one of my favorite things when I've been researching this format, trying to brew things, is going, man, I wonder if there's one of these and going into Gather and finding that card's not
There it is.
Looking up
There
an
it is.
effect. An
Yeah.
effect like earlier today I looked up spells cast one more to see how many sideboard cards against my Helm deck there is. There's not a lot.
No.
Damping Sphere though.
Damping Sphere's
Damping
good.
Sphere is great.
Damping
Damping
Sphere's
Sphere, that's, the combo decks would probably be a little too good if Damping Sphere wasn't a thing, so.
All right, so now that we kind of talked about some of like the best cards, Tom, I know you've been listening in pretty intently. Do you have any questions, like from like maybe a viewer perspective or someone who doesn't play the format much, that you'd like to ask? No pressure if you don't, by the way.
Right. Magic editing. Let me. I can cut out my long pause while I think about your question.
That's fair enough.
I know. Well, sure. I think I've got one for you. Pauper, one of its big influences or draws, I should say, was it was so cheap at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But as it got more popular, it got more expensive.
Sure.
Do you see that potentially happening to middle class Magic, or is that just so far down the line that's not even something you should be considering?
I think it's probably something really far down the line that you shouldn't really consider.
Also, Pauper's still cheap.
Right.
Comparatively.
From $30 decks to like
It's like
$50 or $60.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
like, I would right now put the average deck price for middle class is probably around $90 to $100.
yeah.
If you're buying a standard deck right now, you're spending essentially 6 Pauper decks on that one standard deck.
That's
And it's probably
something
about
else.
2 or 3 middle class decks.
Well, and the thing about middle class too is it's not like they're ever going to be like cards that spike because of it, really.
Yeah.
But like because all of the really good uncommons are already expensive. You know,
Yeah.
like Wasteland, Sylvan.
If you want to play all the,
Ancient Tomb.
objectively just powerful cards.
They're already good in
They're
Legacy
already-
or Modern.
But that's another
Or
reason.
Commander.
That's another reason.
there's other
Right, yeah.
casual formats where they're really powerful too.
That's another reason the format's good is because if you invest in Pauper. I don't know if you.
Well,
can call
people
it
love
investing.
doing different things with the cards that they purchased a lot for, and like Legacy and Modern are the homes of a lot of these expensive cards, but they're just so solved.
Yeah.
And so, rigid. And that's a good thing. They're competitive for that reason. That's a
Yeah.
different style of grinding. But like at the same time, it is possible for someone who grinds a lot and plays competitively to like also want to have that experience, like in a fun, casual format that's still competitive to that. Like that's not like Commander doing all these crazy things. Like because I feel that way too. It's like I'm not a huge fan of Singleton. I like the competitive 1v1 aspects, but a lot of times in Modern it just feels like, why are we playing this? We know what this matchup does.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
Modern's a roll of the dice in my opinion.
I spent this entire last weekend getting just Moderned the entire time at GP
Oh
Portland.
yeah, you were at Portland.
I was GP Portland. And I took a deck that I thought was reasonably well positioned against some of the winners metagame decks.
You took Blue-White Control?
I did. I know. What,
As long as it wasn't Jeskai Control, you've got my stamp
I said
of
I'm not a
approval.
control player, but I'm clearly the enemy of fun. That said, I got rightfully punished for taking it because over the course of the main event and then the PTQ the day after, I played against KCI so many times.
People are finally just being like, you know what? It's hard to play, but if it has a 60% win percentage, I better learn how to play.
Right, but
Yeah.
my point is that some of the modern decks that have currently evolved, they're so fast, they're so consistent, they're so resilient, and if your matchup is bad and you kind of don't plan, if you kind of sacrifice points somewhere, you get matched a bunch of times, there's not a whole lot you can do against a couple of them. Some of the more linear strategies in particular.
It's sort of like separated into 2 camps, like the answers camp and the linear camp,
Right.
and the answers camp is definitely suffering right now in Modern.
Right. So that's why one of the things I was so excited to get back was I could just decompress. I could play something that's a little more casual than Modern itself, but has an element to it that like requires you to play correctly and play at a high level. So.
Yeah.
It's something that's definitely endeared the format to me, and I like. And the cool thing about it to me is every time I go and make a brew, and like I'm sure I don't have nearly as many as you guys, but like my MTG Goldfish page is slowly filling up with with brews as well, and every time I sleeve them up and start testing them, I realize like. Because when I do this in Modern, they always just lose, right? And just like, I remember the first time I tried to brew in Modern, I was like, Axebane Guardian, freed from the real, let's have fun. Banefire. And then, like, it's like, people are like, hey, Splinter Twin, get out of here. What are you doing? Axebane Guardian,
Why are
no.
your Splinter Twin opponents all from Brooklyn?
And just the way it happened, man. It was actually Jaime. Jaime was the first person to to enlighten me as to, like, the nature of Modern. But, like, it's in Standard, recently brewing's been, like, easier, but, like, well, that's one of the things that I've really loved about this is every time I sleeve up a deck, I can see some parts where it's clunky, but I can see that like the synergies present in these like uncommons is really powerful when they line up, and the mana bases don't make it easy for that to happen all the time, but when they do, it's just it's what the cards were meant to do, and
Yeah,
it feels like
absolutely.
a great way to play them.
Right, and it's not if you want to play 5 colors, it's not that it's impossible to do so. Right?
No,
There
I've
are
been
actually-
testing that Eldrazi list.
Right, there are some tribal lists you can play. There are also some cards that just enable you to play creature heavy lists, like Ancient Ziggurat. Or there are some mana darks that are 5 colors, but they're all 2 mana. So like Drover the Mighty,
Right.
or Manaweft Sliver.
Ooh,
I know. There's not any good slivers.
wow.
I've tried.
there's Wall of Roots. No, Wall of Roots is just green.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure it's an uncommon.
I don't think it is either. But I don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Regardless.
either.
So, in regard to the viewers, if they want to like brew stuff or maybe look up some of the stuff that we have, I mean, I think most of the lists that I've brewed for Uncommon I've made public on MG Goldfish.
Same here.
And I think like an easy way to find them, or if you guys want to produce some for yourselves, sorry for hitting the table.
It's okay.
Is if you just like put MCM in front of the list and tag it under like the
Standing for
freeform-
middle class magic.
right?
Yeah.
Tag it under the freeform format, then that should be an easy way to search it.
Yeah, that's in fact I'm gonna go in and update all my lists so that they say that too, because I've been just giving them a bunch of goofy names.
Yeah.
Which
Which
they're
is
still
great.
they're still gonna have like
Goofy
that's,
names are great.
We should like I'm not gonna spoil any of the deck names that you guys have,
Right.
but like one of my favorite parts about brewing in this format is deciding what goofy name I'm gonna come up with for my deck,
Yeah.
and it's so much fun.
I think it's the part I've spent the second most time on after sideboard.
I think the
Just because it comes that natural.
No, the most time
The
is-
deck is easy to build, but the name.
the most time is that first original search where you just type in uncommon on Gatherer and just like hit
Yeah,
the
so there is
books.
a rarity.
Go.
if you go to the advanced page on the Gatherer and you scroll down near the bottom, there's a rarity category, and you can type in uncommon there. And it doesn't only search for cards that are only uncommons. It's as long as they have one uncommon.
Have one printing out uncommon
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so we just want to encourage everyone to if you're looking first for a place to outlet some of your need to brew and like a fun competitive format for those of you out there that like to grind but also like to challenge yourself to deck building in sort of more casual fun way to definitely check out this format. We're gonna have the ban list as it stands right now, made by Richard and Daniel and their testing group, published in the description below, and we'll also have links to a couple of the MCM decks that Tom and I have brewed as well. Taking on the challenge for the episode. And another exciting thing, this week we'll also be at Pat's Games, playing some middle class Magic. We're actually putting on some tournaments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they'll be proxy friendly, because a lot of these cards are very expensive. But their prize structure and we're gonna try to get some film of some of those games and put them up so that people can sort of see, not just sit and listen to us here fawn over the format, but actually get to see some of the texture of the games, because it's no matter the number of people I've shown like this format to and started playing with, as long as there are people who like really enjoy the like competitive like aspects of deck building and of Magic, immediately they just the next day I see them, they're just like, I've got this deck too, you want to test? I'm like, yeah, dude.
That's the same thing happened with me, man. I didn't even plan on it kind of catching on in the shop. I know that you yourself are a fanatical brewer.
Yes.
And I know that Logan, once he is into something...
I've never seen him brew as hard as he's brewing right now.
When
he
first got into
loves
Pauper,
this format,
When he
man.
first got into Pauper,
Yeah.
he went nuts.
Well, because Logan just has this encyclopedic knowledge of cards, and they just
you
like
would too.
connect, and it's just like, whoa, yeah, oh yeah, he's worked there for so long,
Yeah.
it's just ingrained, and he he's come up with at least he was the first one to actually put together the goblins list that I played with at least, and show me that it was good. He put together like a wizard's deck that only ran 17 lands and 3 of them were wastelands. That was his first try. It was really good when it had the correct number of lands, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Like when it had 20 lands.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just there's so much you can do, and there's so much you can do to stylize your build too for this format. So I'm really excited to just sort of see what people come up
Yeah, it
with.
should be
Yeah,
fun.
and if it gets a good response from you guys as viewers or anything like that, we'd be more than happy to post some of our favorite lists, say like on like your patrons page on Patreon or whatever it is.
That's awesome.
We
That'd
also
be,
love to be proven wrong.
Yes.
that's what I'm learning the more I play with you guys. Is like that's how you figure out either if a card should be on the ban list or like that's how like metagames evolve.
Yeah.
It's competitive. Prove them wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a member of the Patreon, go ahead and post some of your first initial MCM brews. Remember to make the name pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Give it your own personal
Won't
flair.
even read it.
Family friendly
Yeah.
though. It's a
Family friendly, yes.
Family friendly. It's
spicy, but not too hot.
TV appropriate.
Exactly.
We're talking like medium salsa here.
Yeah, TV's pretty. Yeah, exactly.
A radio edit of whatever your actual name.
Go to the middle of Michigan and find some salsa, and that's the salsa that we want you to bring.
No offense to any Michigan listeners though.
No, you don't know any better. You know, you're in Michigan. It's not your fault.
We rescue you here.
It's not their fault. You don't have to drive a long way for good salsa, man.
You deal with this every week, Tom?
Every week.
But yeah, absolutely. The one that we think is the funnest or like the most, we might even sleeve up and test it a little bit and see how it goes.
Oh,
We'll talk about next week on the podcast.
I might run it through at Pat's.
Oh yeah, that would be great. We could even put it on film.
That'd be awesome.
You should sit in the hot seat.
Oh, Lord.
This coming Tuesday.
Yeah, dude.
Wait, no, let me sit in the hot seat.
You can sit in the hot seat. I'm just gonna be none of your nonsense.
I won't bring eggs.
What? The nonsense was writing down his life total?
I'll bring eggs. That was me shuffling cards.
Oh.
If he had actual cards, he would be shuffling cards right now, 100%.
Well, thank you, Richard and Daniel, for joining us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's been a blast. We're glad to have you guys. I'm glad we could, support you in lieu of your other host.
Yeah, I wish him luck on his finals. Simon, wherever you are, he's in town. He's studying for his finals.
Whatever you are.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, he's studying for his finals.
Whenever you are.
We believe in you. If you're listening to this now, I hope your finals went well when you took them.
Retroactively.
Yes. Time, space.
All right, now I think we're probably going to sign off here in a minute and go play some middle class Magic.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited.
Well, thank you guys for listening. As usual, if you enjoy content like this, you can let us know in the comments below or by hitting that subscribe button. So, until next time.
Thanks so much for joining us for our talk about Middle Class Magic, a new and budding format that we are very excited to see where it goes and to play a lot more of. Next week, we will have all the hosts back, and we'll be doing another installment of our Play Like a Pro segment. This time we'll be featuring Alex Brundage, who has recently piloted the Eldrazi Stompy, or as some call it, the Serum Powder Eldrazi list to an RPTQ top 4 and Pro Tour qualification. So very excited to learn about how to play that deck, because it's pretty confusing to me. I don't know about you guys. As always, I've been your host, Morgan.
And I've been Thomas.
And we're tapped out.
Nice. I'm sorry I contributed so little.
And that's...
I'm just...
Oh, Tom,
low
really,
energy.
it's all right with me.
You let us talk for a while.
I tried to live here occasionally.